I thought I had it all. A perfect relationship, a perfect life, or at least that's what I believed. Alex and I were inseparable. We shared everything, our hopes, our dreams, our fears. From the outside, it looked like we were the perfect couple. Friends would always say how they admired the way we communicated, the way we seemed so in sync. But I had no idea that beneath the surface, things were starting to unravel. At first, it was subtle. Small changes that I didn't pay much attention to. Alex would come home late from work, and when I asked about it, the answer was always the same. Busy day at the office, just needed to finish a few things. It didn't seem like much. Everyone gets busy sometimes, right? Or at least, that's what I told myself. But then came the missed calls. A phone buzzing on the kitchen counter while Alex was in the shower, and the name flashing on the screen was a name I didn't recognize. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was probably just work-related. I trusted Alex. I trusted us. After all, we had been together for 3 years, and I thought we had built something solid. We had our little routines. Saturdays were for breakfast in bed. Sundays were for long walks in the park. We shared everything, or so I thought. There were moments when I sensed a distance, but it was always brief. A fleeting second where I'd look into Alex's eyes and wonder if something was off. But those thoughts were quickly replaced with the reassurance of everything being fine. We were in love, weren't we? Why question it? So I chose not to. But as the days went on, those little moments added up. The silence on the other end of the phone when Alex answered a call, a quick, almost guilty look when I walked into the room. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I started feeling like an outsider in my own relationship. The trust one had was still there, but there was a nagging feeling I couldn't shake. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking. I remember one night, sitting on the couch, watching a movie. Alex was unusually quiet, distracted, their eyes glued to their phone. I could feel the tension in the air, but I couldn't figure out why. The phone buzzed again, and Alex quickly glanced at it before silencing it. I didn't say anything, but I noticed. I always noticed. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced through all the signs, the missed moments, the strange behavior. Had I missed something? Was I just too caught up in my own expectations of perfection to see the cracks forming? I wanted to believe everything was fine, but the feeling of unease wouldn't go away. I tried to push the thought out of my head. I convinced myself that we were just going through a rough patch, that things would get back to normal. After all, every relationship has its ups and downs, right? Maybe I was just being dramatic. Maybe I just needed to trust Alex more. But deep down, I knew that trust was fragile. Something was changing and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Then there were the moments when Alex would get defensive. If I asked a simple question about their day or what they were doing, the answers would come quickly, almost too quickly. Nothing special, Alex would say, a little too curtly, and then change the subject. It was small, but it was there. Despite these little signs, I held on to the idea that everything was fine. Maybe I was just being paranoid, or maybe I wanted to believe that everything I had with Alex was as perfect as it seemed. But deep down, the doubts began to fester. They were small, but they were there. And no matter how much I tried to ignore them, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was losing something I didn't fully understand yet. I didn't know it then, but I was on the brink of a discovery that would shatter everything I believed about love and trust. But at that moment, I convinced myself it was all in my head. After all, nothing was wrong, right? Nothing had changed. We were still in love. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never imagined that my life would be torn apart in such a cruel, unexpected way. The day everything changed began like any other. I was at home, scrolling through my phone, when something caught my eye. An unfamiliar name in Alex's inbox. It wasn't a message that stood out. It was the intimacy in the words. The way they signed off with a heart, the playful tone, and the closeness I could feel from just a few words on a screen. I thought maybe I was overthinking it, that I was just being paranoid again. But something in my gut told me I wasn't. The instinct to ignore it was strong, but I couldn't. So I waited for the next opportunity. And when it came, I didn't hesitate. I went through Alex's phone. I felt like I was betraying everything, but there was no turning back now. The messages were clear. Too clear. The words between Alex and this person were affectionate, flirtatious, and filled with secretive tones that only confirmed what I had feared but never dared to confront. There were no doubts anymore. It was happening. The betrayal, right there in front of my eyes, was undeniable. The relationship I had built, the trust one had given, was nothing more than a lie. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Every word on the screen seemed to stab me deeper than the last. I felt nauseous, dizzy, as if the world was spinning too fast. How could Alex do this to me? How could I have been so blind? All those late nights, the missed calls, the silence, it all made sense now. But the reality of it hit harder than I ever expected. I sat there, paralyzed, staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to confront Alex right then and there, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The words felt like they were choking me, making it hard to think clearly. I couldn't decide whether to rage or to cry. My body was numb, but my mind was running a million miles a minute, trying to piece together the puzzle. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. I felt completely helpless. Betrayed. I had trusted Alex with everything, given them my heart, my time, my love. And this was how they repaid me. How could I have missed the signs? Was I that naive? Did I really not see the changes happening in front of me? Everything felt like a dream, but it was real, and the pain was suffocating. I couldn't think straight. My mind kept replaying the moments we'd shared, every laugh, every kiss, every promise. Were they all lies? Was it all just a performance, a game to Alex? How long had this been going on? I wanted answers, but I didn't know if I could handle them. The trust one thought we shared was shattered in an instant, and with it, everything I knew about us. In a daze, I put the phone down. The weight of the situation was too much to bear. My heart was racing, but my body was frozen. I couldn't process it. I didn't want to. It felt like my whole world had come crashing down around me, and I was powerless to stop it. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. I wanted to scream, but my voice was silent. I felt paralyzed, stuck in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I didn't know what to do, but I knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The reality of Alex's betrayal hung over me like a heavy cloud. Every thought, every moment, was now tainted by this horrible truth. I didn't know how to fix this, or if it could even be fixed. But I knew that I couldn't go back to pretending everything was okay. The damage was done, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. The days that followed felt like an endless blur. I could hardly bring myself to do anything. Every time I woke up, the reality of what had happened hit me all over again. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. The betrayal had left me empty, like a shell of the person I once was. I had been so sure of us, so confident in what we shared, and now, all I could feel was the weight of the lies. Alex tried to act normal, as if nothing had changed. But every time they came near me, I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't look at them the same way anymore. There was no trust, no comfort in their presence. Just a constant reminder of what they had done. Every touch felt foreign, every word hollow. I wanted to scream, to ask them how they could do this to me, but I couldn't find the strength. It was like I was paralyzed, physically present, but emotionally absent. I didn't want to be around Alex, but I also didn't want to be alone. I felt trapped in my own house, in my own mind. I'd sit in silence for hours, staring at the walls, wondering how it had all gone so wrong. How could someone I loved so much betray me like this? How could they look me in the eye and lie for so long? I was consumed by anger, sadness, confusion, all at once. And none of it made any sense. There were moments when I felt like I was losing myself. The anger would rise, and then the tears would follow. I couldn't make sense of my emotions. How could someone who promised to love me do something so heartless? The pain felt like it was eating me alive, but at the same time, I couldn't stop myself from spiraling deeper into it. I wanted to confront Alex, demand answers, but I was scared of what I might hear. Scared of what their justification might be. I spent days thinking about the future, or rather, what future we had left. Could we move past this? Was there any way to rebuild what was broken? I wasn't sure. The trust that once anchored us was gone, and without it, everything seemed fragile. I thought about walking away, leaving it all behind, but the thought of losing everything we had built together was terrifying. How do you walk away from someone you once thought you couldn't live without? How do you leave a piece of your life behind? And then there were the moments when I thought about forgiveness. Maybe I should just let it go. Maybe I should try to move on, to give Alex another chance. But deep down, I knew I couldn't forget what they had done. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about finding a way to live with it. But I wasn't sure I was ready to do that. Every time I thought about forgiving, I was flooded with the image of Alex with someone else. It felt like a betrayal I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. Every decision felt impossible. I could feel myself becoming numb to the world around me, isolating myself more and more. Friends reached out, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. How could I explain what had happened? How could I tell them that the person I loved had shattered everything with one simple act? I felt like I was carrying this massive weight on my shoulders, and no one could help me bear it. I didn't even know how to help myself. I hated this version of myself, weak, vulnerable, broken. I wanted to be strong again, to find my footing, but it seemed impossible. I kept replaying the moments in my head, searching for answers, trying to understand how I could have missed so much. It was like a constant loop, a never-ending cycle of pain and regret. The truth was, I didn't know how to heal. I didn't know where to start. I had no roadmap for how to fix my heart. And worse, I didn't know if I could ever trust anyone again. The decision hung over me like a storm cloud, and I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to confront Alex, and I had to decide what to do with my life. There were no more distractions, no more running away from the truth. I couldn't stay in this limbo. The uncertainty, the emotional turmoil, it was slowly suffocating me. I needed clarity, even if it meant facing the hardest conversation of my life. I waited for the right moment, but there was no perfect time. So I decided to face it head-on. When Alex came home that evening, the weight in the air was undeniable. I couldn't pretend anymore. The lies had already been uncovered, and there was no going back to the way things were. As soon as Alex sat down, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but heavy with accusation. Alex froze. They looked at me, eyes wide, and for a moment I thought they might deny it, lie again, but there was no point in that anymore. The truth had already spilled out. The silence between us was thick, suffocating, and it felt like I couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry," Alex said, their voice faltering, but the apology felt hollow. "I never meant to hurt you." "You did," I replied, cutting them off. "You hurt me more than I ever thought possible." The words felt like knives, but they were true, and I had to say them. I couldn't hold back anymore. I couldn't let them off the hook with some weak apology. They had betrayed me, and I couldn't just sweep it under the rug. The conversation that followed was painful. Alex tried to explain themselves, but the more they spoke, the more I realized that nothing they said would ever erase the hurt. The promises they had made, the love we had shared, were now nothing but a distant memory tainted by betrayal. I listened to their excuses, their justifications, but it didn't change anything. It didn't undo what they had done. In that moment, I realized that no matter how much I loved them, this was a wound that couldn't be healed. I was torn between two options: stay or leave. Part of me wanted to try to fix things, to work through the pain, but the other part of me, the part that still had some shred of dignity left, knew that I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep living in a relationship built on lies. The trust had been broken beyond repair, and I wasn't sure I could ever look at Alex the same way again. I didn't want to lose them, but I also didn't want to lose myself in the process. The silence between us grew, each of us weighing our next move. I could feel the tension, the unspoken questions hanging in the air. Could I forgive? Could I rebuild? Would I be able to find peace again? Or was this the end? There was no easy answer. I wanted to forgive, to believe that people could change, but the truth was I couldn't trust Alex anymore. The thought of them with someone else, the thought of them lying to me, made everything seem so fragile. How could I build a future with someone who had shattered my trust? It was clear to me now that I couldn't stay. I couldn't keep living like this, with the constant fear of being hurt again, the uncertainty about what Alex might do next. As much as I loved them, I loved myself more. I had to prioritize my own well-being. So I made the decision. I chose myself. I stood up, took a deep breath, and said, I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. The look on Alex's face was a mixture of shock and sorrow, but I couldn't be moved. I had made my choice. I couldn't keep sacrificing my peace of mind for someone who,